Imagine waking up in the morning and reaching for your phone. You don't think about the exact angles of your arm, the specific pressure your fingers apply, or the intricate details of how your body moves through space. You just do it. This seemingly simple action reveals a profound truth. Our perception of the world is not a detached intellectual process, but a deeply embodied experience. This is the essence of Maurice Merleau-Ponty's Phenomenology of Perception, a radical rethinking of how we engage with reality, and one that challenges the very foundations of Western philosophy. For centuries, philosophers have debated the nature of perception. Some, like Descartes, framed it as a process of the mind observing the external world, creating a gap between subject and object. Others, following empiricist traditions, saw perception as a passive reception of sensory data that is later assembled into meaning. Merleau-Ponty rejected both views. To him, perception is not a detached mental representation, nor a mere physiological reaction. It is an active, lived experience that cannot be separated from the body. Consider walking through a familiar neighborhood. You don't consciously analyze each house, tree, or street sign as separate objects that must be pieced together. Instead, the entire scene unfolds in a fluid, meaningful way, guided by your movement, memories, and expectations. Your body knows the turns to take before you even think about them. This is what Merleau-Ponty called the pre-reflective nature of perception. Unlike traditional views that place cognition at the center, he argued that we don't need to mentally process each individual aspect of an experience for it to be meaningful. We perceive the world as a whole in an immediate and embodied manner. A crucial concept in Merleau-Ponty's thought is the body subject. Rather than seeing the body as an object controlled by the mind, he viewed it as the very foundation of perception. Our bodily engagement with the world is not a secondary act. It is the primary way in which meaning emerges. Think of a skilled musician playing an instrument. The fingers move effortlessly, the body feels the rhythm, and the music flows. The musician is not consciously thinking about each note or finger placement. Their body has become attuned to the instrument. This is not a mechanical process, but an intimate, lived relationship between the musician, the instrument, and the sound. This insight shatters the traditional subject-object dichotomy. We do not stand apart from the world, observing it as a separate entity. We are immersed in it, intertwined with it, and shaped by it. Our bodies are not just physical structures. They are expressive, intentional, and engaged in a constant dialogue with the environment. This intertwining is what Merleau-Ponty called being in the world. We do not simply occupy space, we inhabit it with meaning, familiarity, and intention. This notion of embodiment also extends to language and thought. When we speak, we do not first mentally construct entire sentences and then mechanically vocalize them. Words emerge organically from our engagement with the world. Conversation is not a transmission of pre-formed ideas, but a dynamic, lived interaction where meaning unfolds in real time. This perspective challenges the classical view of language as a mere tool for conveying thoughts, and instead positions it as an embodied phenomenon. Consider learning a new skill, like driving a car. At first, each movement feels deliberate and effortful. You think about pressing the pedal, adjusting the steering wheel, checking mirrors. Over time, these actions become second nature. The car becomes an extension of your body, and you navigate the road with an intuitive sense of movement and space. This transformation reveals another key aspect of Merleau-Ponty's phenomenology: habitual body memory. Our bodies learn and incorporate skills in a way that transcends conscious thought. We do not merely store information like a computer, we inhabit new ways of being through lived practice. This idea has profound implications for understanding perception in art. Take, for example, a painting by Cézanne, an artist Merleau-Ponty deeply admired. Instead of rendering objects with sharp outlines and precise details, Cézanne's brushstrokes evoke depth, movement, and ambiguity. His paintings are not static representations, but living expressions that invite the viewer's participation. Merleau-Ponty saw this as a parallel to perception itself. We do not see the world as a collection of fixed objects with absolute boundaries. We perceive a fluid, ever-shifting interplay of light, color, and form. Just as Cézanne's paintings refuse to impose rigid definitions, our perception resists being reduced to mere data processing. Vision, then, is not a passive reception of images but an active engagement with the world. When we look at something, we do not just see it, we reach out toward it, orienting ourselves in relation to it. This idea challenges traditional optical theories that treat vision as a simple transmission of external stimuli. Instead, Merleau-Ponty described vision as an intertwining of the seer and the seen. The world does not simply appear before us, it calls to us, shapes our attention, and unfolds through our embodied interaction with it. This challenges the common notion that perception is purely subjective or purely objective. It is neither. Perception is intersubjective. It arises in the relationship between the perceiver and the perceived. This means that reality is not a fixed, independent structure waiting to be discovered, nor is it a mere illusion created by the mind. Reality is lived, experienced, and always in flux. This view extends into social and cultural perception. When we encounter others, we do not analyze them as detached observers. We perceive gestures, expressions, and movements in a way that is immediate and meaningful. A friend's smile is not just a set of facial muscles contracting, it is an invitation, an expression of warmth that we feel before we think about it. Social understanding, then, is not a rational calculation, but an embodied resonance with the world. Merleau-Ponty's insights continue to shape contemporary thought, influencing psychology, cognitive science, and even artificial intelligence research. His emphasis on embodiment challenges the traditional notion of the mind as separate from the body, offering a more holistic approach to understanding human experience. His work invites us to rethink perception not as a passive reception of information, but as an active participatory process. By shifting the focus from detached observation to lived experience, Merleau-Ponty reveals the richness of perception as something deeply human, deeply bodily, and deeply intertwined with the world. We do not merely perceive, we engage, we move, we exist within a landscape of meaning that is constantly unfolding. The body is not an obstacle to perception, it is its very foundation. Through this lens, the world ceases to be an external object and becomes a lived reality, an inseparable part of who we are. This is the essence of phenomenology, not as an abstract theory, but as a way of seeing, living, and understanding the world anew.